I just thought I'd share with you today 4 key highlights from the 3rd episode of the Better World Leaders podcast. This was a conversation with Ben Bowen, an Aboriginal man and a really incredibly knowledgeable and insightful guy who works with Aboriginal communities in Australia, with Indigenous communities globally, and with corporates and large organizations all over the world. Ben's key areas of focus when it comes to corporate leadership are around community engagement and communication. And with Aboriginal communities and First Nations peoples, it's really about using technology in particular to build sustainable business models. Now, the 4 key outcomes for me, and do by all means go and listen to the full conversation on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you'd like. But the 4 key outcomes, just very quickly here, were the main theme was about connectedness and how together we will achieve the biggest outcome. And as a leader, that sort of bringing your teams and your organizations together and connecting in very meaningful and purposeful ways, that really should be your key focus. So that was the big one, the main theme. As a way to do that, we spoke at some length around networks, and to use Ben's term, small networks, which essentially is a sort of a thought process around everybody of any sort of experience and status being a leader within their own network, and that great leaders find out ways and means that they can connect these networks by looking for what Ben calls the hand-holding points between these networks, finding common ground, shared meaning, a sort of a purpose that everybody can get behind, and then using these hand-holding points to connect these small networks, and then sort of through the networks enable really fantastic communication and momentum to be built. The 3rd point was around essentially a way to communicate more powerfully as a leader. And we hear this theme a lot about bringing the human element back. Well, what better culture to take reference from than one that never took the human element out of their communication. And I mean, I've distilled this right down to basically, as a leader, bring more personal stories and less rehearsal to your communication. But there's a lot more to it in the conversation, especially around how to ensure your core values and purpose remain constant and continually referenced in your communication. And then we had a long sort of discussion about how to do that to make sure that information as you disperse it has overlaps, so that no one person has got unique knowledge reflecting back on a message, and that's basically a way to ensure that, as Ben referred to them, the sanders of messages don't sort of erode the overall meaning, and that remains strong. The final point was a very poignant part of the conversation where we spoke about how to create sustainable business models, and really essentially how to have a target, aim at hitting that target, and then sustaining that level of growth and deepening your impact and deepening your purpose and meaning. And I think we can see many of the more sort of successful organizations that have put that at the forefront for a very, very long time. So those are the sort of the highlights, the key messages. I hope you'll join Ben and I by listening to the conversation in full and to future episodes of the Better World Leaders podcast. Thanks.